start the microphone. Hi, I'm Renee Hobbs. Welcome to COM 416 Spring Semester 2018. This is the fully online undergraduate course at the Harrington School of Communication and Media with students from the University of Rhode Island. Today I see on the call, I see Meredith, Matthew, Kelsey, and Jess. Thanks so much for joining us today. Of course, what a crazy week it has been. I don't know how you guys are feeling, like on a scale of 5 to 1, with 5 being everything's under control and 1 is like, it's crazy. But let's just see, how are you on a scale of 5 to 1, with 5 is like everything's cool, 1 is holy shit, it's crazy. Where are you? All right.
I feel fine.
Are you voting 0? So it's even more than crazy. It's out of control. Yeah, this time of year. So you guys who held up 3 fingers, that's awesome. Lucky you. Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me tonight. Okay, so we just did a little like temperature test to see like how our stress levels are, how we're crazy semester. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. I realize first I have to go to the class website. And of course, you guys are all really aware, I think, that next week, your LEAP 2 is due. Now, in case there's somebody watching this video who's just crawled out from under a rock, can you guys briefly describe what the hell is LEAP 2? Anybody want to try to explain it?
It's like how do I do this? Is my volume, am I speaking? I'm sorry, is my volume on?
You sound good.
Okay. So I've never used the program before that we're using, but you're taking a video and you're kind of like speaking over it and explaining the propaganda in the video.
Yeah, that's a good start. Anybody want to add to that? So you're making a screencast, which is kind of a video where you show something on your screen and you talk over it, and you're analyzing propaganda. Anybody else want to add anything to that? It's due next Wednesday.
Right. We're using the Mind Over Matter, Mind Over Media website, right?
Right. So you've got to find a piece of propaganda on the Mind Over Media website. If you want to use another piece of propaganda that you find on your social media or someplace else, just use the upload button, upload a screenshot or a video to the Mind Over Media website, and then you're off the hook. Good job. So Meredith explained where the propaganda needs to live, at least one place where it needs to live. What else do you remember about this assignment, or are you thinking about? Because you all want to do, I mean, you're all going to get A's, right? So to get A's, what are you going to need to do?
Prepare a script.
Right? Bravo. What else?
Edit.
You might need to edit. You might not need to edit, right? So that pause button is your friend when you're making a screencast. Of course, you know, John Green and the Crash Course and famous vloggers, right? They make those cool jump cuts that are very typical now in YouTube culture. But you can create something like that just by using the pause button, right? So try that. Of course, the main thing that I want to call your attention to is this is really a work of analysis. So it's probably wise for you, if you look at the criteria for evaluation, really hard to get an A on this project without demonstrating that you can make an application between what you're reading about and learning about through reading with your analysis. And it's also really the case that you can't really do a first-rate critical analysis just on what's here in your head already, that you're going to have to go out and do some research and reading and find out more information about the context and background. The same way that reading about the AT&T texting and driving campaign improves your understanding of your own emotional response to the film by Werner Herzog. So research and the integration of the readings is definitely a part of that. I believe that the Victoria O'Donnell essay on how to analyze propaganda is going to be really helpful to you, but obviously I think other sources are going to be useful as well. Okay, so what a crazy week we had last week. I'm going to give me a thumbs up if you can see the class page that I'm like pointing to right now. Okay, wonderful, thank you. So what a crazy week it has been. I guess we're gonna start with this big question right here, which is why did COM 416 students get blocked from watching their online video class? And so if you didn't know how we got blocked, you can just review the Twitter stream, because I kept you in the loop all the way through the whole thing. Remember last week we watched this really interesting music video by the Saudi Arabian guy, right? And it had this unusual representation of Saudi women. Well, within a day of posting that video, like I always do after each class, I got a takedown notice. There it is. Okay, so I think that's the first video that I made. Yeah, that's the first video I made. So what I did was I got somebody, Matthew, was it you? It might have been Matthew, but maybe it was another student who said, I can't see the video. And I'm like, damn, I know I posted it. And what I learned was that I had received a copyright strike from YouTube. Because they claimed that I was using someone else's intellectual property in my own video, which is true. I was, right? But I was using that music video, not for its intended purpose, right? Because that work was originally created as a form of musical entertainment. But I was using it in the context of a college class on propaganda. So the work was used as a way to demonstrate the process of critically analyzing propaganda in the context of a fully online class on propaganda, where students who cannot participate in the live video conference view the video and then complete additional assignments. So I told YouTube, I am not violating copyright. And I had to fill out a very fascinating form. I then 2 days later got an email saying, no, they rejected my claim. And so there it is. And then finally, I did get the good news, right? I did get the good news that they've decided to release the claim. So I wanted to talk a little bit more with you about that, because I think that every student graduating with a degree in communication and communication studies should have a good understanding of what the scope of their rights and responsibilities are under the law. So you guys all know that copyright law gives really strong protections to authors. And I'm an author myself, and I have benefited financially very well from selling my intellectual property. I mean, very well. So I really respect copyright law because it's helped me a lot. At the same time, copyright law doesn't just protect owners. Copyright law also protects users, all of us who use other people's creative work in our own creative work. And one of the strongest protections for us users is called the Doctrine of Fair Use. That's Section 107 of the Copyright Law. And it says that under some circumstances, people can use bits and pieces of other people's creative work without payment and without permission, right? And that big idea is at the heart of one of my books on copyright called Copyright Clarity: How Fair Use Supports Digital Learning, which I published in 2010. That's a long time ago now. But the law hasn't changed that much, except for some things I'll tell you about in April. And I'll save some details of that for a little later on in the semester, when I go to Washington to try to advocate for a part of the law to change. But the process of making a claim when your YouTube video has been taken down can be very intimidating for some people. And that's partly why I documented it so carefully on Twitter. I wanted every one of my, 7,000 followers to see that getting a copyright takedown notice is not the end of the world. These days that happens automatically as a little piece of digital code that's embedded in that music video gets registered, and the copyright holder sort of automatically takes things down. So I know it did disrupt for some of you the process of watching that live class. And so for this, I want to apologize. That's why for those of you who still haven't had a chance to watch that video and comment, I'm going to give you an extension of that deadline until Friday at midnight, because I understand that some of you had some challenges watching that video. But in some ways, it's a perfect opportunity for us to practice doing some critical analysis of media. So I've given you kind of a little bit of an overview of this idea that there's part of the law that protects the owners, and there's a part of the law that protects the users. So let's use these 5 critical questions and see if we can critically analyze a piece of media that's actually a kind of beneficial propaganda. That's our topic for today, right? So as you watch this video, I'd like you to reflect on these questions. Who's the author and what's the purpose? What techniques are used to attract and hold attention? What lifestyles, values, and points of view are presented? How might different people interpret this message differently? And what context and additional information is needed to evaluate the message? Okay, so give me a thumbs up if you understand what we're going to be doing. Okay, I'm going to play the video on the big screen here. We'll watch it, and then we'll break up into 2 small groups to discuss. Okay, here we go.
Human rights, section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. The doctrine of fair use tells us that we can't use a quote stuff with no pay and no permission. We can't use a quote copyrighted material without permission or paying a license fee. When the cost to the copyright holder is less than the benefits for society. Fair use has many strengths. First of all, it is flexible, but some people find it too big because it is contextual. Context and situation determine how fair use applies. Context and situation determine how fair use applies. We can use or quote copyrighted material without permission or paying a license fee. When the cost to the copyright holder is less than the benefits for society. How will I know when fair use applies to my situation? You must think through these 4 factors: the nature of the use, the purpose of the use, the amount of the use, and the effect on potential markets. But there's really one really important factor: transformativeness. Transformativeness. Transformative add value, repurpose. Transformative add value, repurpose. Transformative add value, repurpose. Transformative add value, repurpose. We can use or quote copyrighted material without permission or paying a license fee. When the cost to the copyright holder is less than the benefits for society. So when you quote or use a copyrighted work, just ask yourself, did I repurpose? Did I add value? Did I it's probably fair use. Did I add value to the original in terms of the cultural or the money market value? If I did, then it is fair use. We can use or quote copyrighted material without permission or paying a license fee. When the cost to the copyright holder is less than the benefits for society.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to break you up into 2 groups. I want you to see if you can tackle those 5 questions. Talk them over, see what you can do. Here we go. I'm going to open up your breakout rooms now. Okay, there we go. You should get a message to join the breakout room. So we'll take just about 5 minutes to talk over this short piece of public interest propaganda.
How did you? Hello. I'm trying to get onto our page. Does somebody have like background?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in my internship right now.
That's okay.
My bad.
That's okay. So our quiz, not our quiz, the questions are on our site, right?
Yeah, hold on.
Why can't I find this?
I was just on it.
I just got on my internship too, so I'm kind of like, okay, week 6. Okay, yeah, so who is the author? Okay, I didn't understand this at all. I really didn't understand this. Well, first of all, the volume was like in the audio wasn't. Did anybody else like understand it, what they were saying?
I mean, I guess just not to copyright.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to copy. I didn't know who the author was of the actual thing. I know that's from it was Temple University that made the video. I know the whole thing was about copyright and like fair use between like users and like the actual copyright people. I know
it's considered fair use if you repurpose it, and what was the other thing they said?
And if you use it for like
great value.
Yeah.
Great value, yeah.
Yeah. What techniques?
If it has like cultural like benefits to it as well.
Yeah.
What lifestyles?
Obviously, you can use it.
The techniques they use to attract and hold attention, well, it was weird. And they used a catchy jingle, which wasn't actually that catchy, but tried to.
Just words into a jingle.
Words into a jingle that kind of didn't go together at all, but
weird to watch. It was like kind of out there.
Yeah, it was definitely out there. Just not something I'd probably turn it off immediately if I was watching it by myself.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't like watch it on my own.
Yeah, but I think the techniques they used was repetitive. I would say the technique
I definitely got the message though.
Yeah, I think they did it. They used repetitiveness, or like they repeated it a lot. Like they repeated the same exact things over and over again, just like make it in your brain. So yeah, they said it over and over and over again. Next one was what lifestyles, values, and points of view are presented. don't really know this one, but point of view would be, I would say third person. I don't know. It was a guy telling a story. Yeah, I don't know. For the
Point of
next
view
question, do you mean how might people interpret this message different or different people? Okay. I think
I think for like you could take like either stance, like on either side of the argument. I think people like our professor would probably be on the stance of like copyrights and like stuff like that. But like for people that like, especially like musicians and stuff, who definitely want to like take like samples and stuff from other people's songs and try to make it better. They get sued like all the time.
Yeah.
I know like what's his name? Who's the Bruno Mars? Bruno Mars like sampled one of the songs, and he actually got sued for one of it. But I'm pretty sure he ended up getting off the case, anyways, getting the case off.
Yeah.
What context and additional information is needed to evaluate this message? I definitely think you need to look at the laws more than anything, because because it says like it's context and situational based. But like you definitely just need to like read exactly what you can do and what you can't do. Like I don't really know what that means, like context and situational based. Like it's like a blurred line. It's not like definite. So like I don't really get what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I feel like you could win on either side of the argument.
What did they mean when they said transformativeness? Anybody else catch on that?
Transformativeness.
Yeah, they were like,
Yeah, I think
text. Like, put it together. I don't know what that meant though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think transformativeness basically as in like editing it towards like making it better, like they were saying, like adding like revalue to it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's like laws saying that like if you try to add revalue to it and you just devalue it instead, and it becomes like worse. And like and it just brings down revenue or whatever.
That video looked even worse than it actually is.
Yeah, and then you can sue them. You can sue them for making it worse.
Yeah, it could happen, I think.
Yeah, if you don't give them the credit, then probably because it's your idea. But it's probably so hard to prove that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm trying to think of like when evaluating the message. I was like, the article that I had to read with the annotations, it was about an analyst and how you analyze propaganda, but I'm trying to remember something specific I can't even think of right now. It'll come to me. I had a long day. I'll think about that. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore about context and additional information. I mean,
basically, if you copyright, like obviously if you're the person writing it or making a video, you obviously want the credit, and like you don't want anyone else stealing your work without like credit, or without like some kind of like someone informing you, But like if you're a viewer, and you're just like using it for like in a class, like clearly you don't mind, but like I guess it's more serious than that. That's what I basically get at.
I wonder if they copyrighted that awesome song.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it. Anyone else have any thoughts?
No, that's all I had.
Yeah.
I know, like in my audio communications class, we learned a little bit about like copywriting and how like it's really like a blurred line. It's not really much in.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like you guys are starting to come back.
Mhm.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, is everybody back? Okay. Okay, it looks like you guys are back. So let's just do 2 highlights from each team. What insights did you get by discussing this form of, we would call this maybe educational propaganda or public interest propaganda? What insights did you get from critically analyzing this work?
We kind of noticed two big things, I guess. One thing I thought about was that the video was made more with kind of a welcoming tone rather than a warning tone. So it was letting people know that it is okay under certain circumstances to use people's work, as opposed to saying you can only use people's work under these circumstances. So it was kind of like telling people that they have more rights to use people's work than they thought.
Superb. Nice observation about the tone of this piece. Thanks for sharing. What else did you notice?
They really like tried to embed it in you. Like they repeated it like 18 times. Like, all right, we get it. Like, now, like I realized, I'm like, all right, I get it now. Like,
repetition was used to drill some ideas into your brain. Thanks for pointing that out, Matt. What else did you notice?
I noticed in like the video itself, they also like put the keywords in the video so you could see them like visually to help you remember better.
Nice observation, Jess. So what were some of those words that were kind of underlined by putting them up as text?
Like context.
Transformativeness.
Situation, transformativeness, fair use. Excellent. So we heard them and we saw them at the same time. That definitely was a technique used to attract your attention and maybe help you remember. Thanks, Jess. What else? What other insights do you have about this when you critically analyze this?
Well, I think that copyright law can be very drab usually, or people see it as being drab. So by using like this punky music that's supposed to like sort of liven up the subject matter, I think that it could be something that is sort of catchy and something that could appeal to even children to a degree. And also there's a slightly like rebellious context to it as well that was kind of funny.
Ah, great observations, Jordan. So that leads you to think that the target audience might be somewhat on the younger side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. What else? This is beneficial or educational propaganda at the very least. What'd you notice about it?
Sorry, it's a bit agitative to a degree, like what we were reading about. I mean, I think that there is this call, you know, to make something better. Like when you see it, like to sort of improve upon it. Like instead of just, you know, like intaking a piece of information, you should actually like discuss and, you know, like have it add to your general understanding of the world or that piece of art. It should be critical to a degree.
Nice. Boy, that's a great insight. Of course, I think it's interesting that it wants you to, this piece of art wants you to feel confident. It's got a tone that isn't warning, it's welcoming, and it is inviting you to take bits and pieces of other people's work as you create new things, right? Right. Okay, so that was great. I really appreciate your feedback on that piece. I actually created that piece of animation almost 7 years ago now. So you can see that it's posted from my YouTube account. Mike Rob Greco is my former student. He composed the great song, and we worked with a professional animator to animate that song. Right now it has about 50 or 70,000 hits, I think, in different versions on YouTube. So even though it's pretty old, it still gets a little bit of traffic. One of the reasons why I created that video was that I was aware that there's so many myths and misunderstandings about copyright that people are kind of walking around with like a handicap, like a target. Walking around with a target on themselves because they don't really understand what they can do. Right? In fact, we wouldn't have shows like John Oliver's Last Week Tonight or Jordan Klepper's The Opposition if those authors couldn't rely on the doctrine of fair use. They don't pay for clips, right? They don't ask permission. They use clips from entertainment culture and news and advertising and wherever, and they use it because they rely on the doctrine of fair use, right? And you are entitled to that same protection under the law. You are entitled to use bits of other people's work in your own creative work, which is kind of important for you doing a great job with LEAP 2, right? You don't have to ask permission or get a copyright permission to use bits of other people's work in your work. You're doing comment and criticism. By critically analyzing propaganda, that is explicitly identified as transformative, right? So I think you should feel a little bit empowered, maybe a little bit curious, and hopefully want to learn more about copyright and fair use. I didn't think it would come up in this topic in this class, right? It doesn't, many times it doesn't come up, but the fact that my using the music video, the Saudi Arabian music video in my class, I used the whole video, and I brought it into my online class. The fact that that caused a copyright strike, I knew it was invalid. So I was very confident in saying, take that away because you made a mistake. But lots of people wouldn't be knowledgeable enough to know that, and their own work would be hamstrung or limited. That's why I invite you to take a look at that question that I posed there, really maybe not for us to discuss so much as just to reflect upon. I'd like you to consider the consequences. What might happen in society when people don't fully understand their legal rights to fair use? When they don't think they can use bits of other people's work, when they're afraid of getting sued, when they're not sure what the scope of their rights are, well, that kind of self-censorship is really dangerous for democracy. So that's partly why, from my point of view, understanding copyright and fair use it's a business. It's good for business. It's good for democracy. Right? So hopefully you'll look into the matter more. You can check out my website, mediaeducationlab.com/copyright, and see we created a bunch of other music videos and other cool materials as well. All right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what you're learning through your class participation activities. Let me talk a little bit about Quiz 2. Quiz 2 was not bad. Quiz 2 definitely showed me that you were understanding Ryan Holiday's his articulation of the potential negative consequences that happen when we manipulate information without regard to its truth value. And in general, I was really pleased with these quizzes. I did want to talk a little bit on two things, your texting and driving responses and your digital annotation. What's really interesting is I watched all of these. Oh, except for Quina and Julia, yours came a little later and I didn't get a chance to see yours yet. But you had some really interesting comments to make in the Flipgrid, and so I'm just going to review some of the ideas that I thought were most interesting. Right, so Peyton talks about how this film kind of does activate fear. You are really given the point of view of the perpetrator. Many of you talked about how surprising that was, that you saw the perpetrator of the film, and that was a big surprise to you. Olivia made a really great point about one of the most interesting, unexpected emotions that this film activates is the unexpected emotion of forgiveness. As we move through this film and we see the powerful scene of forgiveness, this isn't a feeling we expected would occur in watching a film on this topic. And I think some of you made that point. It was a really terrific point. Samantha made a really great point about the ambiguity that lingers through the edges of the film, as sometimes the filmmaker creates some suspense, right, as we have to put together the pieces. Samantha notices that right away in the beginning when the mother's talking about the little boy. We're not sure in the beginning, is he alive or dead? And then, in he comes and we realize he's alive but handicapped. There are many moments like that where the filmmaker creates ambiguity that creates a little uncertainty that leads to suspense. Matt F., you talked a little bit about that whole guilt thing going on with the letter from Martin, right? Monica talked a little bit about the anger that she felt as she was watching the film. And almost all of you talked about how it affected the way you thought about your own identity as someone who probably has texted and driven before. Jordan, I thought you made a really great point here as you talk about the way in which this film elevates our own humanity as viewers by bringing us to that place of forgiveness at the end. So that was, I think, really terrific. But I do want to comment on one thing, which is it's pretty clear that you didn't watch each other's Flipgrid before you commented, because
I can't hear you. The audio's gone out.
I can hear you there.
I'm gonna mute Matthew just a sec. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
It's okay because you're in a crowded space right there. But I think so. So when we do Flipgrid the next time, I'd like you to watch the ideas from each other, because this felt a little bit like you were doing and you guys are really good public speakers. There's no doubt about it. You don't have to show off. You're good public speakers. But what I'm not seeing is evidence of actually listening to each other. And that really mars the value of it. And it felt really redundant to me. It was kind of painful to hear the same three ideas repeated over and over again. I think you might have come up with different, better ideas if you had looked at each other's stuff. So I hope you get to do that for the next time. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the digital annotation. I saw a lot of activity on the digital annotation this afternoon. One thing that's really cool is that although this is a really old piece of scholarship, right? It's a chapter from probably the most commonly used textbook. It's those questions and the insight it gives you on those questions are really important. So just like it's really important to understand who's the author and what's the purpose, what techniques are used to attract your attention, how might different people interpret this message, what values or points of view are embedded in a message, what's omitted, or what additional information do you need. Jowett and O'Donnell identify other issues as well, including thinking about the target audience, thinking about the measurement or of anticipated effects. And so in general, I would say when I last looked at this, which was at about noontime today, which team was making me happiest? That was team 3, Olivia, Caitlin, and Kelsey. You rock, girls. That was very, very impressive. I was really pleased at that. Team 2, Madison and Jana, that was also some really great work there. I'll be checking this website probably by tomorrow, just to check to make sure that others of you are annotating. Annotating is a really powerful phenomenon, and when it's done in a digital context, it can really help improve your understanding of the readings too. So I'm happy to talk about that. Now, I believe that a few of you caught the beautiful ball that I sent to you on Twitter. If you are using Twitter and checking that COM16 hashtag every once in a while, you might have seen my post on February 24th. This fake news online game is thrilling and creepy and educational. You get to be a propagandist and learn all about disinformation. You can get 25 extra credit points for playing this game and writing a blog post about it. Give me a thumbs up if you have done that. Anybody take me up on that offer?
How do you know if we played it?
Say again?
How do you know if we played it?
Because you are going to write about it in a way that shows me that you played it. So let's just share the screen again here. So what you have to do is you have to play it. You have to get a high score. That is, you have to go all the way through the game. And then you have to write a blog post about the game. Meredith, you might be able to persuade some of our 416 students that they should check it out. Why?
Yeah, I did it. It was kind of interesting because it puts you in the position of the propagandist. So it's not like you have to identify fake news, you create the fake news. So you get to see it from the different perspective, which is interesting.
Very good, very good. So one of the things that's I think is really cool about the that's really cool about it is it actually has a theory of disinformation embedded in it. It says there are factors that contribute to disinformation, and along the journey, you're basically just deciding post a tweet or not post a tweet, post a tweet or not post a tweet. I don't know if it happened to you, Meredith, but a couple of times, like I made the wrong decision and got kicked out of the game.
Yeah, I tried to go through it without posting fake news, and like it makes you do it.
It makes you do it.
Yeah.
If you're ethical in this game, you really won't be able to even play it at all, right?
No, I thought maybe you could like get a little bit far, but it makes you do it right away.
Right. So, in fact, as you share pretend fake news on the game, you start to see the patterns, and I think it does have the game claims that by becoming familiar with the patterns, you become inoculated to them. And I wonder if that's true as a researcher. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that you do that. I am going to extend that deadline you see right here. I'm going to keep that extra credit opportunity open till March 7th. So, but I'm not putting it up. Oh, this is so sneaky of me. You know, I so want you guys to participate in watching the videos and being here live. I'm not going to put it up on the Pathwrite, because if some students are just going through doing the Pathwrite activities in that old-fashioned, dumb way, then, you know, they probably don't deserve the extra credit. So, but if you come to the website, you're going to see it. And if you watch the videos, you're going to see it. So have fun with it. Write a blog post that describes what you learned, and I'll issue those 25 extra credit points. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I have a question. How are you going to know if we posted it on our blog? Do you want us to tweet about it, or?
If you tweeted about it, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Right? Obviously, I will be able to find it on your blog if it's there, but if you tweet about it, it'll make me really happy. And a lot of people did, by the way. You can go back in the stream. Meredith, you tweeted about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of people
criteria for it.
tweeted about it. So try that. Okay, so
is there like a criteria for it? Like, do you care like how long it is, or just like you just want our opinion on it and stuff?
Oh, great question. So if you identify the 6 characteristics of disinformation, you're going to get 25 points. If you just said, well, that game was cool, man, you might get 5 points. So it's not an automatic 25 points for writing 2 sentences. It is based on quality, because I want to have evidence that you learned something. It's an educational game produced by people in the Netherlands, I think, right?
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to give me enough information to show me that you won. Some people posted the point score that they got.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want us to tell you like what our score is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And obviously, if you describe what feelings you had, what you noticed, what you learned, that's really what I'm looking for. So this should be a combination of fun and learning. All right. So, okay, let me just get right to it now. Next week, one of the funnest topics of the semester, in my humble opinion. Next week is one of the funnest topics of the whole semester. It's the blurring of art, journalism, and activism. And man, are we seeing that happen in the world right now. What with the Florida shooting? Whoa, you cannot escape it. It's everywhere, right? Examples of journalism, activism, and even creative expression and art, all blurred together in ways that are contributing to the team. So let's take a look at what we're going to do for next week. and then I'll get you. Okay, here we go. So next week, the theme of blurring of art, journalism, and advocacy. Of course, your most important thing really is your LEAP 2 is due, right? Critically analyze a piece of contemporary propaganda. I'd like you to watch this really interesting 5-minute video about propaganda. And it comes from Al Jazeera, right? Which is a news network located in Doha, Qatar, right? And what he, what they do in this video is in 5 minutes, in a really creative animation, they explain the key ideas from Noam Chomsky's book, Manufacturing Propaganda, Manufacturing Consent, where he talks about propaganda. So you're gonna, if you watch that carefully, you're gonna learn a lot. Show me what you learned by tweeting a dense, concise message to demonstrate your understanding of these ideas. Okay? Next, let's see if I can go, I can go back. I never quite get that right. The big thing that we're watching next week is the half-an-hour video by Jason Russell, produced in 2012, called Kony 2012. Now, I have a pretty high expectation that you guys saw this when you were in middle school or high school. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Yeah, you did. But you're different now. So make sure you watch this now as a college student, because you're going to, especially since you're taking a class in propaganda, you're going to notice things about it that you didn't notice when you were much younger. We're going to answer this question: what makes this video an effective form of propaganda? After viewing this documentary, describe a specific example of content and techniques used which activate strong emotion, simplify ideas, appeal to audience values, or attack opponents. Please read the examples provided by other students before you post to avoid duplicating examples. So that's a really fun and interesting project. That video is really a powerful piece of propaganda. I wrote about it in 2013. So I want you to read my essay called The Blurring of Art, Journalism, and Advocacy, Confronting 21st Century Propaganda in a World of Online Journalism. I make some arguments about what the consequences of that blurring are all about, and that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on next week. The other thing I want you to read is a really interesting essay. Okay, come on, baby. Yeah, there we go. Is a really interesting essay by Brooking and Singer. It's called War Goes Viral: How Social Media is Being Weaponized. I tried like crazy to find a more recent example, but the more recent examples aren't as well written or as solid. This uses the example of the War on Terror, but it's absolutely fantastic for how it describes the role of social media. So even before we had the crazy scandal with the Russian bots, we had ISIS using propaganda in this way. And so again, how do I want you to demonstrate what you learned? I want you to tweet about it. Yeah, absolutely. What's after that? Okay, so this week and for the rest of the semester, I'm grading your class participation on the quality of your Twitter engagement. So far, I haven't really been grading your Twitter engagement. I've just been noticing whether you're participating or not. But starting this coming up week, I'm going to give you some feedback in the form of a grade. In this class, you're explicitly learning how to be effective in the use of social media. This is a professional skill that will have value to after graduation. If you click on that link, please review the evaluation rubric. You'll see what counts as a good tweet. Then look through the COM 416 Twitter dialogue and offer a comment, question, like, retweet, or at least one high quality tweet that on at least one high quality tweet that you find. You might want to share examples or news stories or other information that relates to the themes of the class. You might want to retweet the ideas of others whose work you respect, in making your contribution, be sure to use the COM416 hashtag so that your work is visible, right? So all this whole week, we're really going to be trying to talk to each other about the blurring of art, journalism, and activism as a form of propaganda on Twitter. Next week, we'll have our regular class, Wednesday, March 7th. And that's the scope of your assignments for next week. Do you guys have any questions about that?
Just for the assignments for tonight, you said that, or the assignments for today, we can do them before midnight, right?
Right.
That's okay. Okay. Just making sure once again.
Good job. I'm glad.
I watched the video. I didn't get a chance to respond on Flipgrid, but I'll watch everyone else's video and then respond.
Beautiful. So you can, you don't have to watch everyone's video. That's 26 videos. That'd be too crazy. But watch at least 5 that came before you, right?
I saw kids from other classes. Could I respond to them as well? Because I saw one of my friend Alex's that I wanted to respond to.
Oh, from last semester.
Yeah. I didn't know it was from last semester. I thought it was this semester.
Yeah, no, yeah. So you can take a look at the dates. You guys are the spring class. The fall class is also on that same sheet. What other questions do you have?
The things on the Flipcast, because I've been watching what other people are recording, but do we always respond, or is it just that we have to watch before?
Unless I explain that you should respond, you just have to watch. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll ask you to respond, but in this case, I just wanted you to try to take their ideas into account in making your own comments. All right, what other questions do you have? Okay, so I'll just give you a little preview about why next week is going to be an awesome class. Next week is the last class before we go on spring break. Woohoo! Is anybody going on spring break? No? Oh, how sad. No? Nobody? Oh, that's tragic. Well, I'm going on spring break a little bit early because I'm going to Austin, Texas, and then I'm going to Brazil. So for spring break week, I'll be in Brazil. But next week, I'll be at what I consider to be the propaganda event in my professional community, the propaganda event of the year. It's called South by Southwest. Have you ever heard of it? Yes, it's a film festival. It's an extravaganza of technology. It's a lot of people walking around with business cards and networking. And I'm going to be talking about chatbots in education and some new technologies in education. But it's really a propaganda event because everyone's got something to tell and everybody's got something to sell. And so next week on Wednesday, I'll be tweeting from my hotel room or my Airbnb, I guess, and I'll kind of give you a little snapshot about what South by Southwest propaganda looks like in action. Sometimes we think of propaganda as just a media thing, but it happens at conferences and at events too, right? So I'll give you a little portrait of that when I see you next week. All right, so work hard on your LEAP 2s. I'm really looking forward to seeing them. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Bye.
All right, bye now. Thanks for joining, you guys.
Have a safe trip.
All right, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.